If you are one of our native plant fans, today's video is going to be a little off topic because we're actually talking about our nursery operations here. Today's video is actually a follow-up to a video that we did a couple years ago on connecting a barcode scanner to our Square point of sale system. And in that video, I promised you that I would do a follow-up on how we create our barcodes or our QR codes to scan into our inventory. That first video took off. We were shocked by how many people tuned into it and also shocked by how many people had follow-up questions. So I hope that today's video is a great follow-up to that and answers all the questions that you have. Hey guys, it's Anna from Bright Lane Gardens. Today we're doing a behind the scenes video on some of our nursery operations, specifically dealing with our inventory system. During that last video, we talked about connecting this guy to our Square point of sale system. In today's video, we're talking about how we get this QR code onto this tag so that we can scan it into our system. Tracking inventory has been a total game changer. We've had our inventory system in place for the last 2 years, and I'll talk a little bit more about just how much of a difference that's made in terms of what we grow, what size we grow it in, and when we choose to sell it. We are dealing with a lot of equipment in this video, so I'm going to do a quick overview of the pieces of equipment that we have. To complete this setup, you don't necessarily have to have this exact equipment, but I will say if you are just starting out or planning on starting a small business like a plant nursery or another outdoor business like that, we have selected the highest performance equipment for the lowest price. So price point, budget, that was a big deal to us. We don't have a big budget. We do this part-time. So we had to be able to afford the equipment that we were buying, but we needed it to last for many years. We wanted it to do the job that we needed it to do. So this is, in my opinion, the most budget-friendly option with the highest success rate. First and foremost, we do use Square as our point of sale system. I have mixed opinions on them at this point. I would say I think you have issues with any point of sale system that you use. Square was user-friendly. It integrated well with our website, so I'll give it bonus points on that front. I think the fees are kind of up there, and there's been some other technical difficulties along the way, but overall, it's served us very well. We use the Square terminal as our physical point of sale system. So when customers come to check out, they can check out right here with the system. They can insert their card, tap their card, and we can even print a receipt from here. This has worked really well for us. We use it indoors, outdoors. The connection's been great. So highly recommend if you have a mobile business or an outdoor business like this. We are also using our Honeywell barcode scanners. This is the cordless barcode scanner. So as you can see, there's no cord connecting it to the base. I will put all these models, model numbers, names down in the description below so that you can take a look at it. There's a lot of different compatible barcode scanners with the Square terminal. There's a lot of different point of sale systems that you can use. So by no means is this cream of the crop, but like I said, this was budget friendly and has worked really well for us for several years. And then last but definitely not least, this is our label printer. He was our biggest purchase overall. It took us a couple years to save up for him, but he has been magical in terms of keeping track of inventory. This is the TTP 247. I think it goes by a couple different names, but it always ends with that 247 digit. This will print on your plant tags. That includes your pot sticker plant tags. And it will also print on your wraparound plant tags. And we'll go a little bit more in depth on that. There was many colors, styles, sizes, a lot of different options on that front. But this printer can also print on different types of stickers, tags, apparel, jewelry, whatever you need it to do. So if you are not running a plant nursery and are running a different small business, I'm sure that this will print a label for you. Overall, this was the most budget-friendly printer that we could find that would print on horticulture tags. So that was a really big deal for us, obviously. Now that we've reviewed the equipment that we're using, I want to talk about a couple different types of tags that we're planning to use within our barcode system. There are different types of codes that you can actually scan into your system using pretty much any barcode scanner, including this Honeywell model that I have listed below. There's a huge variety of codes that you can actually choose, but there's some common standard codes that are frequently used. UPC-A is Universal Product Code, which is a 12-digit numerical code that will create a barcode, and that's standard in North America. So it's really common for us to use that on some of our grocery products, but you wouldn't see that type of barcode in, say, Europe. So it's not really a global barcode, but it is a universal barcode in terms of North American standards. The EAN 13 is the European equivalent of the North American code. And then we have code 128. Code 128 is a super high density, really long numerical code. It's alphanumerical actually, and it's usually used in like supply chain management and logistics. unlikely that you're gonna deal with that in retail. Then we have QR codes, and that's actually what we use here is QR codes. That's what we apply to all of our tags that we are printing in-house here. But in addition to those, we do also have our UPC-A. So this is on a tag from a plant that we've purchased from a supplier. We do a combination here of plants that we've grown here on site, which are our native plants, and then we have some native cultivars or like fruit trees or edible perennials that we'll purchase from outside suppliers, and they almost always have their tags pre-labeled with this UPC-A barcode, which is wonderful because this is pre-labeled. I don't have to create this, and it easily scans right into my system. The only downside is a lot of times if you're purchasing from a smaller supplier secondhand, these are not gonna automatically pop up in your point of sale system. Whereas if you were purchasing a product like Lay's potato chips, those are already registered and in a large database, and Square can actually pick up the description of that product. So when you're doing your inventory, you would simply scan that barcode in and it would actually pop right up on your Square system, which makes inventory or adding new products super easy. There's just an additional step when you're scanning in something like this. The barcode's created, it's going to scan the full barcode number into the Square system. You just have to go in and assign it a price, a name, and a description. So a couple extra steps on that, but it's still super convenient if you can buy any products that come pre-tagged and pre-barcoded like this. If you are purchasing from a supplier, ask them about their tagging system because a lot of times they can customize their tags or they have those tags with barcodes, and it's really easy for them to add that on there. So worth an ask every time. Of course, that's not what you're here for. You're here to figure out how we get these QR codes onto the tags that we print in-house. So let's head on over to my computer and I'm gonna show you exactly how we do it. So the first way that we use those QR codes is of course on our plant tags. So we have the pot sticking tags and we have the wraparound tags. Today I'll just do a demo on the pot tags. It is a different design for each tag. So this is my Label Live system here. I will link this program in the description below. I have to say there was a slight learning curve to set up the printer page sizes, the tag sizes, all of that. But once I had it in there and I was able to save my template, it was so easy to use. And probably the single best thing about this program is it's a one-time purchase. It is not a subscription, which is so rare these days. So over the top pleased with that. That alone encourages me to promote Label Live, but I also really appreciate the functionality. So I'm gonna open my design. I have my native plant plugs right here. Open this and right away, this is pre-populated. So the reason that this is pre-populated is because I've uploaded a CSV or a spreadsheet, and I'll show you what this looks like. This is my spreadsheet. I basically created this outside of Label Live. I created this in Excel and then I converted it into a CSV, which is kind of just a dumbed down version of Excel. CSV is the most recognized system by a lot of these programs, so I always encourage you to convert your spreadsheets to CSV format before you upload them. But this right here is all of our inventory for our native plants. So I have a couple different items here. I have my scientific name, my common name, QR code, price, and then I added in light conditions and water conditions just so there was a little bit of beneficial information included on the pot tag. When I exit out of here, you can see that all of these components are included on my design. So I made my common name at the top in bold. I put the scientific name down below a little bit smaller. I wanted the price to be easily visible, and then I have my conditions here. Keep in mind, this isn't showing the full design of the tag, but on this side is going to be the pointy part that goes down into the dirt. So I wanted to make sure that my QR code and my price and my name were easily visible without having to remove the tag from the pot. Once they buy the plant and can take it home, it's easy for them to take the tag out and read the rest of the information on there, but you really want your most important information at the very top of that tag. On the side here, you can see my variables, and I can add a ton of variables. You can add as many variables as you want into your design. This is just what I decided to add, but I can easily add an additional variable. I could call it color, add that variable. And if I had a column on my spreadsheet that was dedicated to color, I would be able to add it in right here, or I can just say pink and type that in manually as well. And then I could add that right into my design here. So I'm not gonna do that. I don't want that on there. This is all the information that I need because I have information cards next to each plant display that gives so much more information than what can fit on a tiny tag here. So include your important information on your tag. And down below, you'll see I have my QR code. QR codes are 8-digit codes. This is how they are calculated in here. Anytime you change this number here, it will change the design of this code. So let's change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you'll see that it changed the design of my QR code right there in the design itself. Uploading your CSV data in a spreadsheet like I showed you makes this so much more convenient, because if I click down here, I have literally every plant that I need. So let's say I'm looking for my butterfly milkweed. I type in milkweed here, I can click on that and it's going to auto-populate. So this is the correct QR code, the correct common name, the correct scientific name, the correct price, etc. All of these are automatically filled in. This is by far the easiest way to organize your tags. There is a little finagling with your CSV format. I encourage you to start simple with just your common name, a QR code, and price, and integrate that, see what that looks like. But it definitely takes some practice to kind of arrange things and see where you want them. The good news is if you know how to use Canva or even Microsoft Word, this is a pretty straightforward system in terms of drag and drop. You can change the size of everything. You can change your font, the bold, underline, italics, anything that you want to change, you can do that right here within your system. And you can even add your logo. I could add a static image here. Go ahead and add our logo here. This is not the logo that I would choose for this, but you can see it would add that there. You would probably want to choose an all black logo with a clear background. But you can easily integrate an image right into your design there. Now on the right-hand side here, you can see barcodes. So like I said, there's so many different versions of barcodes. As you can see, this system alone has a ton of barcodes integrated right in there. So say I wanted to copy that UPC-A code that I showed you on that pre-printed plant tag before. I could click that and then I could add the data here. Has to be 11 or 12 digits. And it would automatically populate that barcode right here on the system. So I could have easily used barcodes right on those tags instead of QR codes, and it would have done the same thing. There is a reason that I opted to use QR codes, and that's because we could use it in Canva to create different images, different stickers, different printables, things like that. So I stuck with the QR codes, and I'll likely stick with those QR codes unless I see a reason not to. But in the 2 years that we've been doing this, the QR codes have served us just fine. They work totally fine. The only issue that we have is sometimes people will try to scan them thinking it's like an informational option where it'll take them to a website that talks about that specific plant, but it won't actually pull anything up because all it is 8 digits. They're random digits, it won't take them to a website. So this is the basic layout and design that we use for our pot tags. We have a slightly different design for our wraparound tags just because they are a different shape. Walking through these tabs at the top, if you go to label, this is where you would actually assign your page width and height. So depending on how your tags are assigned, this is where you would kind of specify what your page width and height would be so that the printer understands what it's being fed. You can change the orientation, you can change the style. If you have a color printer, you can change the color of the ink, you can change the color of the background label, you can show a ruler, you can show a grid. So there's a lot of different options here. This is the standard settings that I use for our white pot sticking tags. These are the tags that stick right inside of the pot. The design I already showed you, this is how you can add your objects here. So if you click on the object in question, you can change the size, the font, the boldness, things like that. We can move it around, we can duplicate it. So this is where you can really mess around with the design, the overall layout of your tag. If you go to your data tab, this is where the CSV came in handy. So I can edit the CSV, I can reload it, I can export it, I can import a new one, I can remove all the data. This is really the central hub of what controls the information on my tags. This is where you decide what row you want to select. I can select my different plants here, and then this is what's going to show you your variables down below. One thing to note, you can have a QR code on there and not have it connected. The only thing that's connecting these to the data is showing that they're green. So if I added like a new variable in here, let's say we did the color variable and I added it, since that's showing up as white, that's telling me I don't have data to connect to it. So it just assigned it a random term, ABC123, because it has no data. There's no column on that CSV that I entered to represent the color of the plant. So it's not pulling that data from anywhere, which is why this is showing as white. It's really important. When I first did this, I didn't notice that my QR code was showing as white, and what that meant was every single tag that I printed had this dummy QR code in it, and I didn't even notice it. So I actually printed hundreds and hundreds of tags. They all had the same QR code on it, and it was only valid for one plant type. So all of the rest of those tags were useless, and I unfortunately had to toss them. It was a really expensive and important lesson to learn. It was very wasteful. So I just wanted to share the knowledge and let you know ahead of time that these have to be green to show that they are actually pulling data from your CSV that you've uploaded. Our last step is going to, of course, be to print. I'm not currently connected to my printer, so it's just going to show me a print preview. But once you are connected to your printer, this would show up with your printer name. This is how many copies you want to print. For the individual pot tags, since they come out horizontally and just have one per sheet, you can print as many as you want. For my wraparound tags, those actually come 5 to a sheet, so I have to print in quantities of 5. So just keep that in mind. If you are using those wraparound tags, you're going to want to hopefully get quantities that make sense in sets of 5, so you're not wasting any additional tags there. Same with the color down below. I just have one color. You can control the gray sensitivity. I usually keep it right here in the middle. And then if you do have a full color printer, you can change your settings there. Single label, like I said, the pot sticking labels, I just have one per sheet, so that's a single label. If I have many labels, that's gonna show you how those labels are being printed. So this would be a setting if you're using a different type of label or your wraparound labels, you would have multiple labels per sheet. From there, you would just click print. I will show you a demonstration on that in just a few minutes. Before we hop off the computer, I did want to show you how we use this QR code in Canva. So as I mentioned before, we preferred the QR codes because we could create those QR codes in multiple locations. That included Canva. There's other QR code creators online that you can use for free. And then of course, we could easily create it right there in Label Live for our plant tags. So in Canva, we also use these QR codes because I put cheat sheets like this at every checkout counter that we have. And at a glance, this makes it so much easier to scan our products because instead of our cashier having to go out to the cart and actually grab the bag of soil or grab the bag of fertilizer, they have a cheat sheet full of codes right there in front of them, so they don't have to actually leave the counter and go touch anything. It's all really easy for them to scan at a glance. These codes are so easy to create in Canva. And by the way, if you don't already have a Canva account, I strongly recommend it. It's an excellent tool for any business. It is so easy to use, even if you're not super familiar with computers. So it's a really great option for small business owners, and it's pretty inexpensive in my opinion. It's been one of the cheapest tools that we've purchased in terms of digital products. So I have my sheet here. I'm gonna add a couple fake QR codes at the bottom just to show you how I do it. If you scroll down on your side options here, you will eventually come to an app called QR code. So I'm going to click that. It'll kind of pop out here. You can do a URL. That's a common thing to do. We use these URLs for all of our plant guides. So we have links on our website that are dedicated to growing coneflower and growing sneezeweed and growing different types of native plants. We'll enter the URL right here. I can just do a practice. We'll do it to the home page. So if we typed in our website there, generate the code, this right here, if you were to scan it, would go to the homepage of our website. So we'll put that down there. That's really helpful if you do any printed guides or want to add any information on your tags. You can do anything with that URL and that QR code will take you there. You don't have to do a URL though. We can do an 8-digit code. So let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to update that code and you'll notice that it actually changed the design of this code. So let's do another one. Let's do the opposite. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Generate that code, and here I have another code. We're gonna keep this right here, and I'm gonna show you what that looks like on my system here. So I just put that QR code on my computer. My scanner can easily scan my laptop, so I'm gonna scan that code, and it popped up and said that code is not valid, that item isn't found. That code's not in my system, but I could easily add that code into my system and assign a name to that QR code on my laptop and know that that product is now accounted for in my Square system. So Canva is a wonderful tool. I strongly encourage you to purchase it if you don't already have it, and it's an alternative way to create some of these QR codes, and you can even print them into stickers from Canva, and you can totally bypass the entire plant tag printer, all of that whole setup. So that is another viable option, especially if you're just getting started out and don't have the money to drop on a new printer and all of the cartridges and plant tags that come along with it. Sometimes going a sticker route and putting it on plain plant tags can be a better option if you're just getting started. This was something that we briefly talked about on the last video, but I just wanted to run through a quick demonstration of how we add those QR codes into the actual product on Square. This is part of my Square system. I'm in an individual item, Black Eyed Susan, and I'm gonna go down here. The GTIN is where I'm adding my 8-digit code, and it's always gonna give me this non-standard GTIN That's because it's not a barcode, so it's not standard in their eyes. It's still going to work just fine. It's just letting you know that 8 digits is not a standard GTIN. But this is where you're going to put that 8-digit number that you're feeding into the CSV that you're either uploading into Label Live or adding manually into Canva so that it matches up. So this means that when I have my CSV spreadsheet, the 8-digit code on the QR code is 49070045. That's going to match up with what's being scanned in on my codes. That's going to match up with what's being printed from Label Live onto my tags. All of those numbers have to match for this system to make any sense at all. So just keep that in mind. The final part of this process is, of course, printing the actual tags. So we're just going to run through a really quick print. It's pretty basic. I do have to connect it with my computer through a USB. Since I have a newer computer, I have to do this USB. I forgot what it's called. Small USB, tiny USB, modern USB, the kind that makes you buy another device to connect your device to this device. So, you know, the whole thing. But we're going to connect this into my USB port, which is my little itty bitty port on the side here. So I've connected this in. I can see TSC TTP247, which I told you was the model of my printer. So that's showing up top here. I'm gonna just say I want 1 copy of my Marsh Blazing Star. One super important step before you do this that I strongly recommend, double check your QR codes. You'd be shocked at how frequently this QR code number does not match up with what you have in Square. So I always scan it first. I double check it on my Square terminal. It's showing me the correct product. So now I know, okay, I can go ahead and print 50 of these. Before you print mass quantities of plant tags, double check your QR codes. Seriously, trust me on this. All right, so we're just gonna print 1 copy of this because I have like 4 tags left on this roll right now. And there he is, my perfect plant tag. I wanted to end this video by talking about how valuable tracking inventory on an individual level can be. So I'm looking at this report. This is from the year so far. We just started our season, so it's really just a couple weeks worth of data. But this is already showing me so much. It's telling me how many units of each type of plant in each category that we sold. So native plants are obviously our go-to thing. This is what we're focused on. So we really are focused on this category, but I get to see how many individual plants of each variety that I've sold. And what that helps me out with is as I'm starting my seeds in usually December or January, I know what seeds to focus on and what we've sold the most of and what we sold out of, because Square is actually tracking that for me as well. So it really guides my planting process and tells me this is what people are interested in. People didn't buy that much of this product, but they bought a ton of this product. So I know how much inventory to start, and I'm starting this inventory months in advance. So this is a really, really important tool for me. And being able to track this on an individual level like this is so beneficial. If you haven't done this type of system yet and you're selling plants or selling anything like that where it's sold by the unit, really, truly set up your reporting. Take the time to do dedicated codes for each individual product. Have a unique product description for each individual product. You will be shocked at just how much of a difference this makes in your overall process. This was a whirlwind video today. I know I covered so many things on so many different platforms with so many different tools. It's hard to keep track of them all. I am going to try to summarize the tools and the platforms and the programs as best I can in the description below to make it the most useful for you that it can possibly be. This is a process that feels overwhelming to get set up. I'm a pretty techie person, and even this was really overwhelming for me to get set up. Take it slow, follow the first video first, then follow this video. Set your stuff up step by step, but don't think that my setup is the only setup that will work. There might be a setup that works better for how you run your business. Once you get it in place, you will be so impressed by how well you can track inventory and just how beneficial that is to your business as a whole. I know this was an unusual video to add in there. We're getting back to native plants next week, but I appreciate you tuning into this video. As always, thank you so much for spending time on our channel. It helps out small businesses like ours so much, and I sure hope to catch you next time. Bye-bye.